For this video, we're going to be tearing down an original Xbox One system for the purpose of repairing, replacing, or upgrading the internal hard drive or repairing the optical disk drive. For this procedure, we'll need the following tools. We'll need a Torx or a T8 or T10 sized screwdriver. It does not need to be a security bit, just a regular Torx will do. If we're going to be taking apart the actual optical disk drive, we would need a Phillips head screwdriver. However, if you're just going to be replacing the hard drive, you'll only need the torque bit. For prying the case apart, you'll want either a butter knife or a plastic pry tool. For this video, I'll be using the butter knife because more people will have that on hand. So let's get started. So the first step to getting the original Xbox One system apart is to go to the left-hand side and remove this panel here. So to do that, I'll be using the butter knife in this case. And what you want to basically do is put it in between the panels here and just lift straight up. I do have to warn you, if you've never taken your Xbox One apart before, it will take more effort than what you see in this video. However, if you do the procedure that I show you here, you should be fine. Next, we want to get this piece out here. This holds the top and bottom plastic case pieces together. I usually take our Torx bit here and place it in one of these holes and then push away, and this slides out just like that. Now at this point, we're ready to start separating the top part of the case from the bottom part. So to do that, we want to push down the top and pull up on the bottom and then pull them apart like so. And we keep pushing until it snaps like that. And at this point, we've started our back case here. Now, I'm actually taking the system apart to repair the optical disk drive. That's why the sticker is here. And the system has been apart before. As you can see, it's lacking a warranty sticker. You'll want to either remove this sticker or separate it so that this piece separates, as you see here. But next, we're going to put our butter knife so we can separate. There should be 3 clips here, here, and here. And so we want to place the butter knife right about there, and then pry just like so. And you should be able to see, you can see this little clip there. From my angle, you can just barely make it out, and you want to place the tool underneath and then push up, like back it off like that, so the clip comes out like that. And then we look for our last clip here. Again, bring it in place and then push up while prying. We'll push up while prying up. Push up and pry up. This is the best way to describe it. Anyways, once we've got all 3 of those clips released, we can now put our system down. Back here to our original position. And what we want to do is just pull straight up like that. And there's some clips here on the side. They just lift straight up like that. Okay, just wanted to show you. See, there's a few clips there on the side. There are a total of 3. 1, 2, 3. And you don't have to do anything special with those, just lift straight up. Again, if you haven't taken the system apart before, those clips might take a little more effort to separate. Now at this point, we'll push our case up, and we want to be really careful. You won't be able to see it because it's hard to lift the system up here and show you how I'm taking this out, but I'll show you what I did to separate this in just a second. So what we want to do is pull this up and then pull the outer clip to loosen. Now that makes no sense when we can't see it. But once that's disconnected, what we're going to want to do is separate the front of the case from the top of the case. It makes it easier to put back together later. So what we want to do is pull up on these clips here. We start from the left front side to the right. careful not to snap any of them, and they should pop off. Now with this piece off, I can better show you what I did here on the front. Now this is one of those clips you need to be careful with. But the way this works, so let me just reattach this just to show you how to remove it. Okay, so normally this is still attached like this. So you want to do is lift the back part up like this and then pull this clip out from either side here. Push down, and then you can just pull this cable out. Okay, so these are the two sides. You want to pull that out. This is one of those cables you want to be really careful with. It's very easy to tear. As you can see, this has been apart a few times, and there's been a little bit of stress put here. But this still works, so for the time being, it's okay. Now with the top case off, we now gain access to all of our screws to get to the hard drive, which should be right about here, and or the optical disk drive. So at this point, we want to unplug our speaker connection here. This is pretty straightforward. Just grab this wire and pull straight up. And then we want to take our antenna cable off here as well. So just grab the back of it. Probably easier if I do it with my left hand for you guys to see. But you want to pull straight up. Okay? Don't push side to side, just lift straight up. Okay, with those two cables out, you'll be able to lift this top shell piece off. Okay, first we're going to want to take off our Wi-Fi / Bluetooth board, and we're going to be using a T8 bit for this. And there are just two screws that we need to remove for this. You'll see there are 3 other smaller screws surrounding the Wi-Fi board / Bluetooth board, but we don't need to remove those. We just need to remove these 2 here. And so once we get those off, we can just lift the board straight up again. Don't push it or pull it sideways, just lift straight up. And once you do that, you'll see this is a connector you're trying to remove. And the way it's connected is just by lifting it straight off. Now the reason you have to take this board off is you need to get access to this case screw here. In total there are 8 T10 screws. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they are actually all labeled C1 through C8. So we're going to switch over to our T10 bit here. And just go around and grab all the screws. Okay, with all those screws off, we're going to lift up our panel here. Now, the one thing to be careful of is on our left-hand side. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I can pull out just enough. Here is our connector for our Wi-Fi / Bluetooth board, and we're going to want to pull this straight up, just like that. And now the two are separated out. So you can see now our hard drive and our optical disk drive. So to get the actual hard drive out is pretty easy. We just pull these 2 cables here and lift up our tray here. Now to get this drive out of here and attach it to a PC or get it out of here and replace it with another drive, we're going to need to remove 4 more screws. And these are also T10 screws. And don't worry about the 4 inner screws. We want to take out the outer screws, which are connected directly to the drive. These larger screws here hold 2 of the plastic tray pieces together and aren't required for getting the hard drive out itself. Okay, with those 4 screws out, we can now separate our drive from the tray. Just like that. You can see there's an arrow that shows you where the hard drive, or the direction the hard drive should be pointing in. And you just need to remove this connector before you attach it to your PC. And there you go. So that's getting your hard drive out of the system. So if you're at this video just to see how to get your hard drive out, at this point you can go back to the video you were just watching. To get the optical drive out, there are no screws holding this in because those T10 black outer case screws, these long screws here, were actually responsible for holding this in place. So we only need to detach the SATA connector, again pull straight up, and then the power connector, and this whole tray comes out in one piece. Now to get inside this optical disk drive here, we would take off this clip here, pull it off either side, and on the bottom of this drive are 4 screws that we can remove. And these are small Phillips head screws. That's outside the scope of this video, but I just wanted to show you how to get to your optical drive and to your hard drive. Okay, so now we're going to do the reverse of everything we did before to get the system back together again. So first we're going to get our optical drive back into the system, and that requires attaching this clip again, like that, and then lining up this point and this point with here and here in those screw holes. And then also lining up the front. There are 2 pads here on the front that you'll want to line up here with the front of the case. And if everything is correct, it should sit pretty snug. And then we're going to plug in these 2 cables here. Now we have our hard drive, either the original one that we repaired or another one that we're upgrading to. And we're going to connect it back to our connector here. And then again line it up with the arrow there on the front. Plug this guy in. And we want to get our T10 or Torx 10 drill bit. TORX. And we're going to put our screws in. Again, it's these outer screws, and there are 4 of them. Okay, now this is attached back to our tray. We can insert this into the system. Again, there are these tabs here that you line up and should hold this in place until you get the screws through the upper and lower case to hold that stuff better in place. Okay, so there we go there. So next, we need to get our top case reattached, and to do that we want to reconnect our connector here for our Wi-Fi Blu-ray board. Make sure you do that first, it's important, otherwise your controllers won't work and your wireless network won't work. And then we plop this down like so. We can connect our antenna cable at this point to the front. Opposite of what we did before, just place it right over. They should line up really well, and then just press it down. Don't force it. It should snap into place. And then same with our speaker connector here. Okay. Next we'll put on our front piece here, and then we'll start putting our screws back in. So this is opposite what we did before. I should be able to show you guys here on camera, at least with a bit of an angle here. You want to insert the center tab first. push that brown outer connector in and the blue part to the outside like that. I don't know if you'll be able to see any of that, but that's how you do it. And then as far as this front piece goes, just line it up and push down, and we have that board back in place too. Okay, so now something you missed when I first took it apart on these original systems, there's this little piece that sticks, I think it goes in like right here. It's between the upper casing and the front of the board. I'm not sure what it's for. Some systems, like this system that have already been opened, have a tendency to either be missing these pieces or maybe they never had them in the first place. But there's a little piece of tape that would be on the back of this, which, as you can see, is completely missing. Okay, so we have our double sticky back. So generally what I do is put this on here and then try to rip it so that it's not too long. And then we take a pair of scissors and we cut off some of the excess here. So what we're left with is a small piece of double sticky back tape and enough to get it back where it belongs, like that. Again, not something that is particularly required. You could just as easily just throw that away, but I generally like to put everything back the way it was sent to me, or sometimes not how it was sent to me, but where it belongs. Okay, so we have our 8 primary case screws, and again, one of them is under this Wi-Fi Blu-ray board, so we'll move this out of the way for the time being so that we can use our Torx or our T10 bit here to get all the screws in. So I'll put this one in first. And you can put them in order of how they're numbered or just any old order. It doesn't really matter, just as long as you put them all back. Okay, last but not least, we're going to hook in our Wi-Fi / Blu-ray board again. And we're going to switch to our T8 bit and put in our last 2 screws. All right, perfect. So at this point, we can move some of our wires out of the way here. I usually put these wires underneath these tabs. But we have 3 pieces left to put on. And one of them is our top case here. So we lean it forward a little bit and line it up properly. There's actually 2 things to be aware of. On this right-hand side, let's actually disconnect our cables. On our right-hand side, we have a tab here and here that we're going to want to just feel out a bit here as we're putting the case back together. So on this side, the smaller piece goes into this tab here. So what we're going to do is line up the front. And you can even lean this front piece forward a little bit, but everything should just kind of go right into place. In fact, if everything's lined up okay, it shouldn't take any effort at all just to push everything back together. And that's it. That's about as easy as it gets. And now you can see everything is lined up here. Okay. So at this point, we're just going to put our panels back on our left-hand side. So it's important that you put this piece back in. This rests behind the sync button, or goes behind the sync button, so it depresses. Without this piece in, you'll know this piece isn't in, because when it's not in, the sync button will not depress. The button itself is actually right behind this plastic piece here. If you are missing this piece for some reason, if you got a system that was used or it was a parted system, You can get these for about $10 online. And same as this guy here. Is probably a little cheaper and more common. But we just rest this on top and then push down. And that's it. You have your system all back together again. So now what remains to be done is to plug your system back in and try it out. Make sure your buttons are all working, and if they aren't, then that cable on the front, maybe you didn't seat it correctly. Sometimes it starts going off randomly. It means it's not seated correctly, or they don't work at all. Also means it's not seated correctly. Or if you tore it, whatever. Yep, and then you want to make sure you can eject and make sure the sync works, so make sure you test all that out. But also throw a disk in to the drive, make sure the drive is working after you get it together. And obviously, if this thing boots up okay, then you know your hard drive is okay. Other problems you could see is you can't get the controller to connect. It could be you forgot to hook up that cable that goes from the Wi-Fi / Bluetooth board to the motherboard. Maybe that's not connected. You'd also notice that the wireless isn't working if you use the wireless network. Okay, well, thanks for watching this teardown video. I hope it helps you out, and I'll see you guys in my next video.